Good afternoon and thanks for joining us for Local 4 News at 4. I'm James Sears, in for Tiffany. The Davenport community is looking for answers after a teenager died from a shooting over the weekend. That is this afternoon's top story. Davenport police responded to the intersection of Harrison and 13th Streets around 7 Saturday night. While officers were investigating the scene, police say 16-year-old Javante Jones arrived at Genesis Hospital and was taken to Iowa City, but he later died from his injuries. Today, one Davenport man says he works with troubled teenagers and says the community has to be proactive in curbing gun violence before it gets worse.
When you have them individually or in small groups, they're good kids. When they get around other kids that kind of respond to confrontation like they do, then all of a sudden we have shootings, we have fights. We go right now from words to physical fights immediately. Now we're going from words to a fist fight to gun violence quickly. We've got to slow that down.
A local group called Beyond the Baseline has planned a walk to end gun violence for next Monday. We'll have all those details on our website at ourquadcities.com. Meanwhile, one concerned mother is outraged at the gun violence in the Quad Cities. Tanya Patrick's son was also shot a few years ago and survived and is still walking around with a bullet in his back. She says bullets have no name to them. She reached out to Local 4 News, wanting to organize activities for children to do after school to keep them out of the streets. Born and raised in the Quad Cities, Ms. Patrick says times have definitely changed, and she fears for her grandchildren growing up in a dangerous environment.
There's this big Rock Island Davenport thing, and it's all stupid. It's been going on since my mom was in school, back in the 70s. So, I mean, I think it's time to knock it off. It's time to take action. We have to do something as a people, as a whole, on both sides. You know, it can't be a Davenport issue or a Rock Island issue. It's got to be everybody.
Patrick says she is reaching out to local organizations and sponsors and is willing to do anything to help stop the gun violence. Davenport city officials responded to this weekend's violence by calling a snap press conference. Davenport Mayor Frank Klipsch outlined the city's plan to hold a community summit in the near future. The goal of the summit is to address juvenile crime and violence not by arresting more children, but by intervening with positive influences before they get in trouble. Mayor Klipsch said that although the city has been working privately on the gathering, these most recent violent acts have made him want to come forward with the city's plan.
We want to let them know that the vast majority of our citizens, again, are all safe. However, that's still one shot, one shooting is too many. So we realize we've got to tell our community we are committed to this as a council, as a city, as a police department, and I think ultimately as a county. We're committed to this, and we need to take a bold step to say now it's time to make this even more public.
The summit plans to assemble local youth groups, churches, schools, and parent organizations to help solve the problem as a community. Well, there was no school today in Santa Fe, Texas, where residents are mourning the shooting deaths of 10 people at the local high school. Dozens of people attended a candlelight vigil last night for the victims, and more tributes planned for today. Omar Villafranca has the latest from Santa Fe, southeast of Houston, with how people are reacting to the tragedy.
Across Texas this morning, people paused to honor the lives lost in Friday's school shooting. The governor called for a statewide moment of silence for the 10 victims killed and 13 injured in Friday's massacre.
There are no words.
Over the weekend, there were more tributes at church services and vigils. Hundreds of worshipers attended this mosque to remember Pakistani exchange student Sabika Sheikh, who aspired to work in civil service. Jolene Cogburn was her U.S. host mother.
She wanted to be a businesswoman, and she said she wanted to impact the world.
On Saturday night, hundreds of fans packed the stands at Santa Fe's playoff baseball game. 2 players even suited up after being shot during the massacre a day earlier. Police say 17-year-old suspect Demetrius Pagorchis wore a trench coat and carried a Remington 870 shotgun and a .38 caliber pistol during the attack. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick suggested Sunday that guns were not the issue.
The best way to take that shooter down is with a gun.
Pagorchis surrendered to police a half hour after they arrived to confront him. He immediately waived his Miranda rights and is now in solitary confinement. Nicholas Pale and Robert Barfield represent Pagorchis. They say their client might not have been in the right state of mind, even though his social media posts before the shooting showed an affinity for weapons and contained violent messages.
This is a young kid who's, at this point, very confused and I think still in some shock.
Houston Texans star J.J. Watt has offered to pay for the funerals for all of the victims. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Santa Fe, Texas.
And the gunman faces 2 felonies, capital murder and aggravated assault of a police officer. Meanwhile, a man who fell into the Mississippi River over the weekend still has not been found. It happened at the Davenport Sailing Club on River Drive shortly before 9:30 Saturday morning. The fire chief tells Local 4 News today there was no active search due to the weather. Crews were on the water all day Saturday and Sunday searching the area of the sailing club, but also keeping an eye on the river. He says this is a recovery operation now, but officials are not releasing the man's identity nor how he fell into the water. And if you see news happening, forward it to Local 4. Just download the Our Quad Cities app. It's free, available on Android and Apple devices. You can get breaking news notifications. Also share stories you want to see highlighted right here on Local 4. Some closings ahead at Black Hawk College locations. The Moline College will be closed Friday at noon for utility construction. Also, all college locations will be closed Monday, May 28th in observance of Memorial Day. Black Hawk will reopen Tuesday, the 29th. Meteorologist Kit Cloninger joins us now with a look at the weather. And Kit, I think it was a great day today. Too warm to be in a suit, though.
Yeah, just a little bit too warm.